Tsunami could arrive on the coast in as little as 15 to 30 minutes. Its turbulent flow washing sand ashore and into normally quiet tidal marshes.
One site in particular that has more tsunami deposits than anywhere else in Washington, and that site is right here at Discovery Bay.
For 25 years, Carrie Garrison Laney has been digging literally into those deposits.
This is a core of the top meters, 3 feet. As you go down section here, you're going back in time.
She logs soil cores of marsh peat layers.
This one here is from 1700.
With radiocarbon dating, a tsunami record back thousands of years, providing clues how often these earthquakes occur. Meanwhile, upgrades to high-resolution wave models.
We can compute really fast and get an estimate of the inundation, wave elevation, duration of the event, number of waves, pretty accurate forecast in a matter of a couple of minutes.
A couple of minutes, maybe all we get if the next tsunami is triggered nearby.
A 4.1 magnitude earthquake in Tennessee woke families up and rattled homes as far away as Atlanta. Now, those tremors spreading across much of the South. We want to get straight to our Alex Brochet with a look at more from reaction from that region. Alex.
Hey, Phil. Yeah, so this tremor hit around, or this earthquake hit around 9 this morning in Greenback, Tennessee. That's just outside of Knoxville. And look, I mean, we're used to covering these types of earthquakes, and you see them in situated areas. Well, this is the Great Smoky Mountains, and so you just saw that bear right there who was curiously kind of approaching a cabin, and then that earthquake hit, and that black bear goes scampering away. We've also seen that was in Wares Valley. We've also seen images of a dog, or excuse me, a cat that was scared off a porch as this rattling happens. But Phil, one of the things that we're hearing from seismologists is that while certainly in the U.S. there's a huge focus of earthquakes on the West Coast, there is quite a bit of seismic activity in Tennessee and northern Georgia. This particular earthquake was felt in Tennessee and across 6 other states at a 4.1, but they say that it's along an area or stretch that's one of the most active in the eastern half of the United States.
Wow, yeah, and we're just seeing some video of it there, and yeah, you can see why there is this fascination. And you mentioned their numbers, population numbers are probably pretty strong?
Look, we've really got no idea. They're in a part of the world where really no one fishes. They're mid-water in the open ocean. No one's sort of trawling that kind of habitat. No one's diving or swimming. So we really don't know. We've got really all we know is from the what washes ashore, and there's not a lot of that. But so when they do wash ashore, they're very, very special. And as far as I know, there's only been a couple of occasions in decades really where they've been seen in Tasmania. So this is really fantastic.
Yeah, and when you say mid-water, what is that, a depth you're talking about there?
Yeah, so they sort of live usually from about 200 metres deep down to about 1,000 metres deep. So out in deep water in the open ocean. So it's the kind of water you don't get till you move, 40 odd kilometres offshore off our coastline. So that's part of the reason why it's very rare that even if one does die and come to the surface, they're pretty much eaten by gulls and everything else, or will just sink again by the time they get to shore.
Yeah, and you mentioned that they don't often get caught by trawlers because they're not in that area. Do trawlers only go to like less than 200 metres deep?
Oh, absolutely not. No, the orange roughy trawl fishery, for example, is operating out in, over 1,000 metres of water at times, but they're fishing on the bottom or very, very close to the bottom. So they're not fishing the kind of areas that this kind of species is found in, which is a much more open ocean, mid-water area. So the fish are pretty much left to their own devices to happily feed on krill and that kind of stuff, small crustaceans, and not surprisingly, left alone, they can grow up to 10 metres in length. So they're quite an amazing fish if you ever get to see one.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we do actually have an image of an oarfish. Look at that. That was washed up on a beach in California. Neville, is that the biggest one you've seen?
Oh, it's the biggest one I've seen in photos. I've never had the privilege of seeing one in real life, again, because they, extremely rare. I think someone mentioned one washed up in the Derwent about 10 years ago, and I I actually had a message this afternoon from a gentleman who saw one snorkeling on the north coast of Tassie 10 or more years ago now. So they do occasionally come in, but it's extremely rare, and I'd love to go and see it. But again, west coast of Tassie is a long way away from where we are here in Hobart.
Oh, it's not that one. It's a bit of a poor excuse. So is that a bit of a bucket list thing for you? You love to kind of come across an oarfish in the ocean?
Oh, these kind of mysterious creatures are fantastic, yes. I had the privilege of coming across the sunfish once, and it's, a different kind of thing, but they're the same really large fish, and they just float around eating similar kind of plankton in the ocean. So, again, kind of special to find these big oceanic beasts, really.
Yeah, they really do look quite mystical. And what's the origin of the name doomsday fish?
Well, I guess it's a bit of an old tale, I suppose, and a fable in the sense that they typically are seen sometimes in association with events like tsunamis and major earthquakes. And I think a lot of that comes from the area around places like Japan, where you can have very, very deep water quite near the shoreline. So the kind of water that these things live in is quite close to the shore. And I guess the shock of a tsunami is enough to wash them up and out of their deep water and wash them ashore. So there's possibly a relationship between seeing them and that big event, but really it's the event that's caused the things to wash ashore rather than anything else. So there's no real relationship there.
A dog walker in Tasmania has stumbled upon an elusive so-called doomsday fish washed up on Ocean Beach, west of Strahan. The oarfish is an unusual-looking creature from the deep that's rarely seen by humans and is the longest bony fish species in the world. Neville Barrett is a fish biologist and associate professor at the University of Tasmania, and he joins us now from Hobart. Neville, g'day. So why is there such a buzz about this particular fish?
Well, I guess it's just the rarity of it, really, or the rarity of seeing them. We seem to think they're probably reasonably common out there in the vast ocean, but they very unusually get washed ashore, and it appears that one has not only washed ashore on the west coast of Tasmania in the last day or two, but it's in very, very good condition.
Yeah, so we're seeing some shots of it now, and pretty colours on parts of its body out there. And this was just a woman walking a dog along the beach. And does the west coast of Tassie pick up a few of these oarfish over the years, or is this quite rare?
It's very, very rare, but if it's going to wash up anywhere, it'll be on our wild west coast where the winds and the swirls bring them in, because they live in the open ocean in mid-water. And even if one dies and comes to the surface, it'll only be up there for a while before it sinks again. And so on our west coast, we've got this, very strong onshore winds a lot of the time, and they tend to occasionally blow these mysterious kinds of creatures ashore, which is fantastic.
A 175 centimetre long doomsday fish just washed up on an Aussie beach, and some believe it's a bad omen. The oarfish is a deep sea creature that usually lives up to 1,000 metres below the surface. Many people believe the so-called doomsday fish is linked to natural disasters like earthquakes. There has long been speculation that the deep sea species could be brought to the surface during underwater tremors, although this has not been scientifically proven. Associations between oarfish and earthquakes date back to 17th century Japan, and were renewed in 2011 after 20 were spotted ahead of the earthquake that sparked the Fukushima nuclear disaster.